Well, hello everyone. How are we doing? So in this video, it's been a while. We are going to say that these Inca Stones are leavened. They are risen from a rocky dough. And you might say, Charles, that's a bit unreasonable, considering that so many authorities are saying they're cut. And yes, I had a friend in about 2020 during the lockdown, and he was an airline pilot, and he visited to see some of the sites I was showing in my videos back in 2017, and he said, Charles, these are not like you say. They're not a facade which is smeared on like a stucco like you suggested of geopolymer, but they're actually cut stone. And he's right. Yeah, and then he stopped talking to me, and I thought, gee, I must be boring. And I found out he actually died in a plane crash in Western Australia, so that was the end of that. And he did send me lots of photos. And another friend recently on Facebook, he knows who he is. He went to Peru and he had a look, and he saw also that he told me, Charles, these are cut stone. Okay, they're cut stone. Yes, they're cut. Yes, there's some things going on. But what I'm suggesting in this video is that to make it look like that, you're more than just cutting stone. You are leavening the stones. And I tell you what, no one else better come out and say this after I've said it. I tell you what, there is going to be consequences, but look over here, and we're going to show you some proof in this video that this is actually cut stone. And why it's cut stone. It looks like during the rising process, there was something laid on top of these stones here, and we see a totally different stone formation happening over these stones. Quite interesting. We also notice there's always lots of, I don't know whether they're air bubbles or what they are, but there's a pockmarked surface on these bulbous stones. And of course, these are volcanic stones anyway, but we normally find that the sort of bubbly type surface in rocks like pumice, not in these harder, heavier stones. Maybe not to this extent, although that is a matter of conjecture. All right. Yes, I've done it. Control page down. And it's the same with this temple in Cuzco. When you look at it, it's the same sort of thing happening. So what we're actually... I'll show you in a second what we're suggesting in this video is how the production process for this. This is some Inca bread, and when we rise bread, we see that the layers of bread can push against each other, and just like with stonework, not a razor blade can be inserted in the joints. And this is a Peruvian type bread. It's called the little baby. The pan baby. And I want you to look at this in particular stone here on the right. This stone has a beveled edge, and I've been doing some baking experiments myself, and this beveled edge can be formed by baking. Here, this indentation is caused by an object being placed on top in the rising process. The nub is formed by an object, a cone-shaped object being placed on top during the rising process, and it has rose into that object. And the beveled edge is caused by a coating being placed on top during the rising process, and the edge has risen independently. That's not from carving a stone or cutting a stone. That's from baking a stone. So what we're suggesting in this video is this entire wall, or parts of the wall, such as a section like this, would have been baked on the ground, risen, with a leavening agent, which would be a type of rock salt from decayed sea salt. We'll get to that in a second. And then perhaps a very finely beaten lead frame was placed between the rocks to stop the rocks completely joining together during the rising process. Bits of the stone to be risen was placed in the middle, and it slowly approached the edges where the beaten lead was. And then this was taken off the ground, stone by stone, placed onto the wall. Just what the knobs are in relation to this, I don't know, but I think we're one step closer. This stone has risen like bread. And I say this because, and I will release another video as to why. I've been doing some bread baking experiments myself to learn about alchemy, and I'm noticing that the same salts that were used by the Romans to strengthen their concrete is used in the bread making industry. Baking soda, for instance, and that is actually enhanced. The effect of baking soda, which is named after Sata, the Chechen god, the god of the redheads from the Caucasus, where the Europeans or mankind emerged after Noah's Ark. Mother of Satanaya, also known as Satan. This soda, this magical substance, is enhanced by tartaric acid, which is from the wine-making industry. So the bread and the wine-making industry, this is a subject for the next video, may have joined forces and said, look, we can do this with stone. We can make stone. That's a French bread I made. This is a Lebanese pizza, the lamba cheese, which is drained yogurt, and you take the water out. And that's what it looks like when you start with. And then you coat the top with the cheese, but then the edge rises. Oh, that's a focaccia I made. The edge rises into a crust where it's not coated with cheese, and it looks different to the rest of the bread. Hang on, that's a wine bread. That's not mold. That's wine in the bread. There we go. So the edge it can be risen more, and it forms a beveled edge. So when I look at the stone, such as the stone I saw, I cannot say that stone has been just purely cut. What's happened is it's been risen first, and then, yes, it's been cut and modified. So it's both been cut, being almost a natural stone, but it's been baked. And I don't think I'll ever change this opinion. Meanwhile, this is a wall in Ireland. That's kind of what a rock wall looks when you just jumble the rocks together and try and make it look polygonal. It looks kind of like that. It doesn't look like an Inca wall. It doesn't look like that, does it? Most fascinating. This is really interesting. So that's a picture you rarely see. You can see the depth of the possibly risen stones. Why do they have legs? Are they supposed to be little feet coming out? Is that what they are? I don't quite know. I'd say there's some kind of support or some kind of attachment to the lower stones. We've suggested an internal welding process to make sure it all stays up. I don't quite know what the internal structure is. I don't really want to hazard any guesses, not having ever been to one of these sites, so I don't know. But to get what we're looking at, I'd say it's definitely a baking and a leavening process. Here again, we see almost the little microscopic bubbles. We see a few cracks. I have to say it just does remind me of baking. So when this was all baked together, they would have also maybe pressed. There would have been maybe not just a metal mold, but they could have made another indented mold as well on the surface. And these are the result of the patterns we're seeing. Something has been laid on the surface to prevent them all getting out of shape or growing disproportionately in certain directions, as will happen because of the fact that you cannot always achieve a perfect mix between the leavening agent and the substance which you want to rise. So this is a Roman bread called a quadratus, found in Pompeii. And this very clever author and also blogger has said, look, I reckon they what happened was, firstly, they tied a string around it. Maybe that's to whip it out of the oven quickly, so it has a waist, and that prevented it from rising along the middle. But he reckons they pressed a wheel into it he or she reckons they pressed a wheel into it, and this made the mold, which is just fascinating. So that's a Pompeii bread that they've recreated. And again, we see kind of the same things as we've been seeing. Obviously, yes, the excellent stonemasons. So what we're saying in the video, we think these were risen on the ground, and then attached stone by stone onto the wall, and then they could form whatever pattern they wanted to, whether there was a code or whatever, or serpents or whatever they wanted to show on the wall. And all these industries are interrelated. They're all from the soda industry, the potash industry. So manufactured salts, potassium and water soluble. And the fact is, I've seen when it comes to soda bread, they use the same substances in the soda bread as the geopolymer people are using. That is the baking soda, which is 25% of the natron salt. And all these are from decayed sea salt lakes, or even from burned wood. And we see here that the products were eagerly of kelp ash were eagerly sought by the glass and soap industries. And not only that, but these would have been sought by the bread industries, the cheese industries. Every industry needs different types of salt. And the same is true in the ancient world. And all these industries combined their knowledge, made rising agents with the salt, or however they did it. Well, we don't quite know how they did it. And created these amazing Inca stones. And I believe that these were risen on the ground and placed piecemeal, stone by stone. The indentations you see are from the rising process, because something was placed on top to prevent them rising disproportionately. And then these stones were attached. And that is the way you make the stones look like this. That's the way it's done. Guys, what do you think about that? Share the video around if you like, and have a nice day.